Good morning. Today I'm going to try something different. I'm going to paint on a really big canvas. I tend to stick to 11 by 14s and occasional 12 by 16. I think it's good to mix it up once in a while. So I'm going to try a bigger canvas, bigger brushes, bigger strokes, and let's see what happens. Okay, this is a little bigger than normal. I'm going to start with an outline and I'm using red iron oxide. The only thing I have my paint thinned with at this point is Damsol. I'm still using red iron oxide thinned with mineral spirits and a little bit of white. Apparently, if you put the same color all over the painting and leave parts of it showing up through the painting, it gives it a more homogeneous appearance. I've not really done this before, so I have some reservations, but lately I've watched a couple of videos by Ryan Jensen. And this is the approach he does, and his work is really good. So we'll see what happens. Okay, this is sort of interesting. We'll see how this turns out. You might wonder why I have a black eye and a band-aid on my head, and it's because I had a dermatologic procedure, so nobody beat me up. Nobody beat me up. Anyway, I stepped back just to take a look at it. There's the picture I'm using. I'm going to move the person a little bit over this way, right here, instead of really at the edge like that. Or we'll see. I don't know. I haven't decided. Okay, so I'm going to wipe this down a little bit, smooth it out, get a little bit of the chroma off. It's been so, when I first started painting, I did a lot of big paintings. And I haven't done a really big painting in a really long time. I'm back to my paper towels because the shop towels were horrible. They just don't have any absorbency. So out here there's some white water. So I'm gonna kind of rub an open space for the white water. I feel like this is too high. I think more water would be more interesting too. And remember, you can change it around. You get to decide where things are and what they look like, and you never have to paint the scene as you see it. So I'm going to put a figure right here, staring at the ocean. So now I'm adding cobalt. Whoops, that's way too dark. Okay, now I'm adding cobalt blue for the sky. It's a pretty clear sky. I did add some red iron oxide to bring down the chroma a little bit and dull it. If you look at the photo, you'll notice that it's lighter as you get north. The important thing about painting a large painting is to remember to use a large brush to get it smeared around fast enough. Now I've seen people actually use, house painter kind of brushes, and I guess I should get one of those. I think it would be really fast. And this is a 10 Ultimate Long Flat Rosemary. Okay, now I've got a purple color. It's a combination of ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson. I can feel I'm kind of getting a little bit too careful. This is supposed to be very spontaneous. Well, let's see if I can stay on track here. And then, of course, there's a shadow here. A little rock here. Now, when you're looking for more gray, what you do is take the opposing color. Now, I want to gray this purple. So if you find purple, let's say it's violet. Well, you see blue, violet, and you want to use one of these to make it more gray. So in this case, with it's more violet, I added orange. So we'll see if that does the trick. Made it look kind of brown. Keep in mind I moved the figure, and that's my right. It's my right to move the figure. You might think, why is she bending over so much to get her paint? And it's because my table is too low. I need a higher table, and I'm gonna get one. Soon, I'm gonna get one. Okay, more gray. Let's see how this looks. Cobalt teal, cerulean blue, and a little yellow medium. There's a little bit more green on the right hand side, so I'm going to pull that over. So I added a little bit more, I use that word too much, huh? So I added more cad yellow medium. This area I'm leaving some of the red iron oxide to show through. It kind of looks like clouds a little bit. Now I don't know about elsewhere, but in California there always seems to be a little fog out in the distance at the horizon. The other thing that I'm doing is trying to prevent this from being too sharp of an edge. This is always a bit tricky. Now you would think I shouldn't be using this if I was trying to avoid these sharp edges, but I just can't eyeball it. So I'm going to add that in, and then I'll come back and kind of muddy the waters a little bit. Another thing I notice when I do these fog banks in the distance is it seems like they look a little bit more natural if they have more blue in them. And by blue I mean ultramarine blue. I think it's time to set this aside and come back tomorrow with a pair of fresh eyes, see what I think. And maybe tomorrow I'll have an epiphany on how to fix this little figure. Back to it. When I came out to look at this painting today, I felt like I'd really gotten way off track with the rocks, and so I'm going to redo the rocks. And I feel like the figure needs to be smaller, and so I'm going to work on that. So I think I've been intimidated by this large scale, so I'm used to painting so small. So we'll see if we can make it look more cohesive. So let's get started. So these rocks definitely do not look like they belong together. This one is just a big mess, and it's very choppy with these little brush strokes. Same thing for these ones down here and that one over there. And then up here, this needs some cleaning up right here. So we'll get to that and the little guy. So I'm going to do a little scraping right now. Now once I scraped those few rocks in the front, I felt like the whole thing needed to be scraped. So I scraped most of the rocks, and I scraped the little man, and I'm going to start over. I also scraped the water because I felt like the painting looked better scraped. So we'll see if we can fix this. My problem is I love color and I love heavy paint, and so I seem to go to that a little bit too soon. So that's a good lesson for that light, thin over fat, fat over lean, start lean first with just the Gamsol, and don't get crazy with the heavy paint because it's hard to paint over it and you have to scrape it. And don't worry about scraping it. Sometimes things look better scraped, and it gives you a good idea of how to approach the painting from there. So let's give it another whirl. And I pre-mixed my rock colors. What's interesting is I was trying to figure out where I went wrong. How did my rocks get so bad? And I realized I was trying to paint in this sort of very impressionistic, very busy sort of impressionist kind of style. Like I mentioned Ryan Jensen, I really do admire his painting. So I was trying to paint like him, and I just was trying to be sloppy without really the method behind it, I guess. That's where I went wrong. So I got out here this morning and looked at this and thought, oh man, what a mess. So I went back to it, scraped everything off, and outlined the rocks really as they are. It wasn't just some random messy kind of thing. And I think it's getting better. So I feel better about that. And we'll just go forward, and I'm gonna have to kind of redo everything really. I think I mentioned I'm using a long flat brush. It's a size 6. And I really do like these flat brushes for doing rocks. Let's go from there. So these rocks are in the distance. I need to make them more muted because you don't want the color here as vivid as the color down here. Another technique you can use to mute things or make there appear to be more distance is to add a little blue to your color. So in this case, I've got my burnt sienna and I add a little cobalt blue to it, a little bit more white. Let's see how this works. I don't know why I got this so tall. It's supposed to be farther away and it's supposed to be smaller. So we'll get that scraped off too. We got to the point where I've almost got this entire painting scraped off. Okay, so in here we've got some smaller rocks and they're lighter. So I've discovered that I've got rocks in the wrong position, and this rock is supposed to be here. So I'm just gonna have to invent some rocks. And of course we know that I'm not great at inventing. As in yesterday I invented some stuff thinking I was being very artistic and abstract, but in fact I was just making a big mess. I feel like it's gonna work though. I was kind of wanting to get a little bit more gray in here. So I'm having to rebuild the sand since I scraped it all off. And the sand here has a lot of rocks in it and it's got some pretty interesting colors. But I think if I tried to reflect that, it would get too busy and it would just look messy. I'm doing a mixture of, I've made a purple with ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson. And then to that I've added yellow ochre to make it just look kind of like sand. And I've slowed down. I'm not trying to be as messy, which I think is helping in the long run. I keep having to add more yellow ochre and titanium white to get this lighter. It's not quite light enough though. I'm gonna add more white to it. Now it's okay to have a bunch of different colors on the sand because you have seaweed, you've got rocks, and you might recall that this is where my figure was, and so I'm covering my figure up. But I don't know if that was water, but it's kind of nice as an undertone. What I am noticing is it does seem to be a little bit more gray. So I've got some blue left over that I was trying to gray the rocks with, and I will just put that in there. What I'm noticing right now is I have a little rock here that I didn't complete. Well, you'll probably notice this at the beach, but the rocks are not all the same color. Like for instance, this one is kind of a light gray. This one over here is yellow. But you've got to make them look like they're in the same family. So they're making them more similar than they are in real life.